The tactical vest weighs exactly 42 pounds when fully loaded. I know this because I've carried it through 16-hour standoffs, up 4 flights of stairs during active shooter scenarios, and once, memorably, while dragging a 200-pound sergeant out of a smoke-filled warehouse. The weight becomes part of you after a while. Your shoulders adjust, your spine compensates, your legs learn a different way of moving. You forget it's even there until someone asks you to take it off, and suddenly you feel weightless, unbalanced, like you might float away. That's what family dinners feel like now, weightless in all the wrong ways. I'm standing in my apartment at 6:47 a.m., staring at my tactical gear laid out on the bed, Kevlar, radio harness, duty belt, sidearm, and my phone is buzzing with a text from my brother Garrett. Still on for Saturday? Mom's making her lasagna? Bring someone if you want. JK, we know you won't. The emoji at the end is supposed to soften it. It doesn't. I'm Elena Paxton, 43 years old, SWAT commander for the Metro Police Department. I've led operations that have been briefed to the governor. I've negotiated hostage situations that made national news, though my name was never mentioned because that's how we operate, in the shadows, where the real work happens. My team calls me boss or commander, depending on how formal the situation is. My mother calls me Lainey and asks when I'm going to settle down. My brother calls me sis and treats me like I'm still the scrawny kid who couldn't do a pull-up in high school. That kid doesn't exist anymore. She hasn't existed for 20 years. But Garrett doesn't know that. None of them do. I text back, I'll be there. He responds immediately, cool. Don't worry about bringing anything. We know money's tight. I set the phone down before I can respond with something I'll regret. The pattern started small, the way most erosions do. I was 26 when I graduated from the police academy, late compared to my classmates, because I'd spent 3 years working private security to save money for tuition. The day I got my badge, I called my family from the parking lot, my voice shaking with pride and exhaustion. My mother cried. My father said, "That's great, honey," in the same tone he used when I told him I'd made the volleyball team in middle school. Garrett, who is 23 and working in pharmaceutical sales, said, "So you're a cop? That's cool. Dangerous though, right? You gonna be okay?" "I'll be fine," I said. "Yeah, but you were never really the athletic type. I'm just saying, be careful." It was concern. I told myself it was concern. But concern has a way of curdling into condescension when it's repeated enough times. By the time I made detective at 31, the narrative had solidified. Garrett had bought his first house, a modest 3-bedroom in the suburbs, but he talked about it like he'd purchased a compound. "You should buy something," he told me at Christmas. "Even a condo. Build some equity. I know cops don't make much, but..." "I'm doing fine," I said. "I'm just saying, if you ever need help with a down payment..." I didn't need help. I'd already been pre-approved for a mortgage that would have made his eyes water. But I lived in a rented 1-bedroom because my work hours were unpredictable, and the thought of maintaining a house while running tactical operations seemed exhausting. Also, I liked my landlord. She was a retired dispatcher who understood when I came home at 3 a.m. smelling like gunpowder and stress. But Garrett didn't know any of that. To him, I was still barely scraping by, one emergency away from asking family for money. He started doing this thing at dinners where he'd pick up the check before anyone else could reach for it, then wave me off with, "Don't worry about it, Lainey. You've done enough just showing up." Like my presence was charity they were providing me. I made SWAT at 36. The selection process was 8 months of hell. Physical trials that left me vomiting in parking lots, psychological evaluations that felt like being slowly flayed, tactical scenarios where one wrong decision meant failure. Out of 47 candidates, 6 of us made it. I was the only woman. The day I got the call, I was in my apartment, icing my knees and staring at the ceiling. My captain's voice was clipped, professional. "Paxton, you're in. Report Monday for orientation." Quote, I said yes, sir, and then I sat on my couch and cried for 20 minutes. I didn't tell my family for 3 months. Not because it was classified, it wasn't, exactly, but because I knew how the conversation would go. They'd worry, they'd ask if it was dangerous. They'd circle back to concern, which would eventually loop into subtle suggestions that Maybe I should consider something less stressful. By the time I'd made commander at 41, the youngest in the department's history, I'd learned to keep my work life and my family life in separate sealed compartments. At family dinners, I was Lainey, the quiet one who worked for the city, doing something vaguely law enforcement related. I nodded when they talked about their jobs, their renovations, their vacation plans. I laughed at the right moments. I helped clear dishes. And I never, ever corrected them when they assumed I was struggling. Garrett joined a gym 3 years ago. Not a regular gym, a boutique strength training facility in the expensive part of town, the kind of place with exposed brick walls, industrial lighting, and personal trainers who cost more per hour than most people make in a day. He posted about it constantly on social media, photos of him deadlifting, videos of him doing box jumps, inspirational quotes about discipline and mental toughness. At Thanksgiving last year, he spent 15 minutes describing his workout routine to me in excruciating detail. "The thing is," he said, leaning back in his chair with the confidence of someone who'd recently discovered physical fitness, "most people don't push themselves hard enough. They think they're working out, but they're just going through the motions. Real training is about breaking through your limits." I nodded and ate my mashed potatoes. "You should try it sometime," he added. "I mean, I know it's expensive, but they have payment plans. And honestly, Lainey, it might help with, He gestured vaguely at me. "Stress, confidence, that sort of thing." My mother chimed in from across the table. "Garrett's right, honey. You always look so tired. Maybe some exercise would help." I smiled. "I'll think about it." What I didn't say? I'd passed my biannual SWAT fitness test 2 weeks earlier with a perfect score. What I didn't say? I can run 5 miles in under 40 minutes wearing full tactical gear. What I didn't say? I'd done more pull-ups that morning before breakfast than Garrett had probably done in his entire life. But I didn't say any of that, because the version of me they knew, quiet, unassuming, perpetually struggling, was easier than the truth. The truth would require explanations, questions, adjustments to a family narrative that had been set in stone for 2 decades. So I just smiled and changed the subject. The call comes at 4:23 p.m. on a Friday. I'm in my office, reviewing tactical reports, when my radio crackles. "Commander Paxton, we have a situation." My sergeant's voice is calm, but I can hear the edge underneath. I'm on my feet before he finishes the sentence. "Talk to me." "Barricaded suspect, Northside Industrial Park. Armed, potentially hostage situation. Units are setting up a perimeter now. Captain wants SWAT on site. ETA? 15 minutes if we leave now." I'm already grabbing my gear. "I'm rolling. Get the team." The Northside Industrial Park is a sprawling complex of warehouses and manufacturing facilities on the edge of the city. Mostly abandoned now, but still technically private property. By the time we arrive, there are 6 patrol cars blocking the main entrance, their lights painting the concrete in alternating red and blue. My team assembles in the parking lot, 8 operators, all of them veterans, all of them sharp. I do a quick brief. Suspect's location, known weapons, potential exits, and then we move. The next 4 hours are a blur of controlled chaos. The suspect is a 32-year-old man with a history of domestic violence and a grudge against his former employer. He's holed up in a second-floor office with a hunting rifle and a manifesto he keeps threatening to make public. My negotiator, a patient woman named Bryn, talks to him through a megaphone while my team moves into position. At 7:58 p.m., he fires a shot through the window. No one is hit, but the decision tree collapses into a single option. We're going in. I give the signal. 2 breaching charges, simultaneous entry from the east and west stairwells, flashbangs to disorient. My team moves like water. Fast, precise, overwhelming. 12 seconds later, the suspect is on the ground, hands cuffed behind his back, and we're clearing the rest of the building. No injuries, no casualties, clean operation. By the time we're loading gear back into the trucks, it's 9:15 p.m., and I remember with a sinking feeling in my stomach that I'm supposed to be at Garrett's gym tomorrow morning. Saturday arrives too quickly. Garrett had texted me the address 3 days ago with a follow-up message. "Come early, like 9 a.m. Want you to see what real training looks like. Maybe it'll inspire you, lol." I stare at the text while drinking my coffee, debating whether to cancel, but I know how that conversation will go. He'll assume I'm too intimidated, or too broke, or too busy with my little job. So instead, I pull on workout clothes. Plain black leggings, a gray tank top, nothing with logos or insignia, and drive across town. The gym is exactly what I expected. High ceilings, rubber flooring, the smell of chalk and sweat, and expensive protein powder. Garrett is near the back, wearing a fitted shirt that shows off the muscles he spent 3 years cultivating. His personal trainer, a guy named Kyle, with the build of someone who takes fitness very seriously, is standing beside him with a clipboard. Garrett sees me and grins. "Lainey, you made it!" I walk over and he pulls me into a quick hug. He smells like pre-workout and cologne. "This is Kyle," Garrett says. "He's been training me for 2 years. Total game changer." Kyle nods at me, polite but already dismissive. I can see him cataloging me. Mid-40s, average height, no visible muscle definition. Probably a beginner. "Nice to meet you," I say. Garrett claps his hands together. "Okay, so I'm doing deadlifts today. Wanna watch? Maybe you can try a few after I'm done. Kyle can help you with form." "Sure," I say. He walks over to the barbell, already loaded with plates. 2 45s on each side, plus smaller plates. I do the math automatically. 225 pounds. Respectable for a recreational lifter. He sets his stance, grips the bar, and lifts. Clean pull, controlled descent. He does 5 reps, then steps back, breathing hard. "Nice," Kyle says, making a note on his clipboard. Garrett looks at me, grinning. "Your turn?" I glance at the bar. "Sure, can I adjust the weight?" "Oh yeah, definitely," Garrett says quickly. "Kyle, take some plates off. She's not." "Actually," I say, "can we add more?" There's a pause. Kyle blinks. Garrett laughs. "Lainey, this is 225. You don't want to?" "I'm good," I say. Kyle looks at Garrett. Garrett shrugs. "Okay, but seriously, don't hurt yourself. We can start lighter." I walk over to the weight rack and grab 2 more 45-pound plates. I slide one onto each side of the bar, then step back. The bar now reads 315 pounds. Garrett's smile falters. "Lainey, that's..." I set my stance, grip the bar, and pull. The weight comes up smooth. I hold it at the top for a beat, then lower it with control. 1 representative. I reset, pull again, 2 reps. 3, 4, 5. When I step back, the gym has gone very quiet. Garrett is staring at me. Kyle's clipboard is forgotten in his hand. "How?" Garrett starts, then stops. Kyle recovers first. "That was really good form. Have you trained before?" Before I can answer, the front door opens. Another trainer walks in, older, maybe 50, with the wiry build of a career athlete. He glances at me, and his expression shifts. He walks over, his eyes narrowing. "Elena Paxton?" I nod. He turns to Kyle. "You know who this is?" Kyle shakes his head. The older trainer looks at Garrett. "Your sister is the Metro SWAT commander. She was in the news 2 years ago for that mall hostage situation. She's a legend." The silence that follows is suffocating. Garrett's face goes through several emotions in rapid succession: confusion, disbelief, something that might be anger. "What?" The trainer looks at me, then at Garrett, realizing he's just detonated something. I thought you knew." Garrett turns to me. "You're a... what?" "SWAT commander," I say quietly, "for Metro." "Since when?" "I made the team 7 years ago, commander 3 years ago." His face is red now. "And you didn't think to tell me?" No, seriously, Lainey, what the hell? I've been telling you to get your life together, and you're running a SWAT team?" Kyle is backing away slowly, clearly wishing he was anywhere else. "Garrett," I start, but he cuts me off. "Do you know how this makes me look?" he hisses. "I've been giving you career advice. I've been paying for your dinners because I thought... I never asked you to do that. Because you were too proud, or I don't even know." He's pacing now, his hands in his hair. "Why wouldn't you just tell me?" "Because every time I try to talk about my work, you change the subject. Every time I show up to dinner, you assume I'm broke or struggling, or... because you never corrected me." His voice is loud enough that other people in the gym are staring now. You let us think." "You wanted to think that," I say, and my voice is quieter than I intended, but it cuts through the space between us. You needed me to be the one who was struggling, because it made you feel better about yourself. His face goes pale, then red again. That's not. It is, I say, and I let you, because it was easier than fighting. He stares at me for a long moment, then he shakes his head, grabs his gym bag, and walks toward the door. Garrett. I need to think, he says without turning around. Don't. Just don't. The door closes behind him. Kyle and the other trainer are both very still, like they're trying not to be noticed. I look at the barbell, still loaded with 315 pounds, and suddenly I'm so tired I can barely stand. Sorry, I say to no one in particular, and then I walk out into the parking lot. Garrett doesn't call. I don't either. 3 days later, my mother texts me, Garrett told us about your job. Why didn't you say something sooner? We're very proud but also confused. Can we talk? I stare at the message for 5 minutes before responding. I'll call you soon. I don't. A week passes. Then 2. My captain asks if I'm okay. I tell him I'm fine. My team runs drills. We respond to a domestic disturbance that turns into a standoff. Everything is contained in 4 hours. Clean operation. No injuries. I go home and sit on my couch in the dark. My phone buzzes. It's Garrett. I don't know what to say to you right now. I type and delete 3 responses before settling on. I know. He doesn't reply. The weight of the vest is 42 pounds. I know this because I measure it every time I put it on. It's a ritual now, a grounding. The weight is predictable, manageable, controlled. The weight of family is something else entirely. I think about calling Garrett, explaining, trying to rebuild something. But every time I pick up the phone, I remember the look on his face in the gym. Not shame, not exactly, but something close. Humiliation. Betrayal. Like I'd tricked him somehow by not performing the role he'd assigned me. And maybe I did. Maybe I should have fought harder to correct the narrative. Maybe I should have insisted, every single time, that I was fine, that I was capable, that I didn't need saving. But the truth is, I was exhausted. I am exhausted. So I don't call, and he doesn't call, and the silence stretches out between us like a canyon neither of us knows how to cross. 3 months later, I get a promotion, Deputy Chief of Special Operations. The ceremony is small, attended by my team and a handful of department brass. My captain shakes my hand and says, "You've earned this." I think about texting my family, inviting them, letting them see this part of my life. But I don't. Because some weights, once you've carried them long enough, you forget how to put down. And some distances, once opened, can't be closed. I drive home alone that night, still wearing my dress uniform, and when I look in the mirror, I see someone I'm proud of. Self-pride is a heavy, silent thing. I've learned